The question is, where is Dominique Malunga? Dominique Malunga made history before she even stepped on a basketball court. She's 19 years old, about to be 20 in November. She was born in Cameroon, raised in France, and in April, a couple days ago, actually like a week or so ago, the Seattle Storm selected Dominique Malunga with the number 2 pick in the 2025 WNBA draft, right behind Paige Bueckers. That wasn't just the headline right there. It was also the fact that she is the first French woman ever to be taken this high in the WNBA draft. But training camp started on Sunday, and Seattle had its vets there. They had their rookies there. They had all the hype, but Dominique Malunga was not there. So, what happened? Where is Dominique Malunga? Well, the short answer to that is she's still overseas. She's still in Europe. She just finished her overseas play with ASVEL Lyon. It's a French club that's backed by Tony Parker, so fun fact. Anyway, that season just ended. It literally just ended. And under WNBA rules, Dominique is allowed some breathing room before she comes over to the United States to play for Seattle. She was here for the WNBA draft, left back out to go back to Europe. Now she will eventually come back to the United States to be with the Seattle Storm. She's under 3 years of experience in the WNBA because, of course, she's going to be a rookie, which means that the league's prioritization rule does not apply to her. So that prioritization rule is only for players who have 3 years or more experience in the WNBA. So while people are asking about what's going on, the Seattle Storm are calm about it. Here's the deal. She did sign her rookie contract. She is in constant communication with the Seattle Storm. And according to Noelle Quinn, they will be getting an update sometime this week about when exactly Dominique Malunga is coming to the Seattle Storm to actually get ready for the start of the season. But first, there may be some people who are like, okay, I kind of get what you're saying, but who in the world is Dominique Malunga? Well, I assume at this point y'all probably know who she is, but if you don't, let me just remind you about who she is. Dominique Malunga is fantastic. All right? She is someone who has been doing work overseas for a while now. She's a 6'6" player. She has a 7-foot wingspan. She is a fluid, athletic big who kind of moves like a guard, dunks with ease, and defends. At just 18, she became the first woman to ever dunk in a French pro game, which was in a women's French pro game, which was pretty cool. And the thing about it, and the thing about her dunks in particular, is that they're just easy. Like it just occurs in the flow of the game. All right, it occurs in the flow of the game, and she gets a lot of comparison to Victor Wembanyama because she's a very tall player, and she's French. So, like, you know, you got that in tow. They're both very lanky type players, and she's not a big who kind of posts up. She can post up, but like that's not her bag. She's not just gonna post up and hope that she can get an entry pass. No, she's someone who runs the floor. She switches on screen. She's someone who can facilitate. You can kind of think of her as like someone who kind of has like a Sylvia Fowles build, but has the versatility and fluidity in the post and around the perimeter like a Jonquel Jones or a Breanna Stewart. So just sort of think about that. Sylvia Fowles frame, but Jonquel Jones and Breanna Stewart in terms of like how they can go from in the paint straight to 3-point line, straight to mid-range. They kind of do a little bit of everything on the court. And also, just remember this, guys. She is just a teenager. Last summer, Dominique Malunga played for the French national team in the Olympics, and that was the year that France ended up getting the silver medal. Now, Dominique Malunga didn't play a huge role in the Olympics at all, but I think just her presence there, just her being there, I think it's just some really good experience for her, especially as a younger type player. So, again, guys, I just want to remind you all of the hold up, right? So, the hold up, as I said earlier, is that Dominique Malunga just wrapped up playoffs overseas. Now, her overseas season is now over, but there is a very short gap between overseas play and WNBA training camp. That season just ended right before WNBA training camp began. And while the WNBA's prioritization rule forces veteran players to show up on time or face fines or have to sit out for that year, Dominique Malunga is exempt for now. She's taken the time to rest, recover, and transition, and she's hanging out at basketball games. I did see a video of her recently at a basketball game overseas. And here's the deal. Let's be honest, guys. Dominique Malunga is smart. This is a player who has been playing non-stop for months. All right? You got Euro Cup. You got the French League. You had the Olympics. So much stuff that she was doing all while trying to develop her game. So she just needed a little bit of break. And again, she is in contact, or at least her people are in contact with Noelle Quinn, and they're providing her some updates. So as of right now, we don't have an exact timeline for when Dominique Malunga will be on this team, but lots of positives. She did sign her rookie contract. There is no sign of conflict. There is no drama. There is no holdout. This is ultimately just the reality of international basketball colliding with the WNBA, a league that is still trying to figure out how to make room for international stars. Yes, the WNBA has that prioritization rule, but as I said before, it does not affect players like a Dominique Malunga. So, what will we have to look forward to once we see Dominique Malunga hit the court for the Seattle Storm? I think we're going to see some fantastic play, right? I think we're going to see Dominique Malunga connect with the post players who are already on Seattle, right? You got Ezi McMagor, who I think in a lot of ways is a huge future for this Seattle Storm team. You also have the vet in Nneka Ogwumike. You have Lee Yuru. So it's gonna be a really good lineup of bigs, power forwards, and centers for Seattle this upcoming year. And Seattle's excited about it. They are very much excited about it. And I'm interested to ultimately see what happens. Okay. Molly says, then why show up at the draft? Because she wanted to. Here's the deal. International players do this all the time. Sayuka just did this, right? Showed up to the draft, get all dressed up and get all excited and blah, 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 blah. And then you go back overseas. You may come back to the US that season. You may not, right? This is not a different thing. Like, this is pretty normal, where every single year we see players get drafted to almost every year. We see international players get drafted. Sometimes they're there at draft day, and then they proceed to go back overseas. And sometimes they come right back for that season. Sometimes they don't come back for a while. And there's a player that I'm going to talk about in just a bit that is an example of that, of a player who got drafted, all excited, but then proceeded to not play in the WNBA for 3 seasons. So, it's a thing. It's a thing. Now, it won't be a thing for Dominique Malunga, because Malunga is someone who seems to want to play now with the Seattle Storm. She just needs a little bit of a break right now. So yeah. So her fit is going to be great with Ezi McMagor. I think it's going to be a really fun pairing between those two. And the reason why I'm pairing those two is because they're very young players, and I see Nneka Ogwumike more as a mentor to the next generation of Seattle Storm bigs, which in my opinion is both Ezi and Dominique. All right. Now I think it's gonna be very, very fun. Very, very, very fun front court for the Seattle Storm. Now let's take a look at the bigger picture. All right. The bigger picture that this brings up that I want to talk about is that Dominique Malunga is not just another rookie. She represents the future of the WNBA, which is a more global form of basketball. This is what happens when the international talent pipeline collides with A WNBA that's finally starting to open its doors a little bit wider to the international scene. This brings up a much needed conversation about prioritization. Now, a lot of the veterans, especially ones who are international in nature, a lot of them do not like prioritization. They don't like it because it forces them to get back by training camp, or else they end up having to miss out on the season. Now, again, that's not the case for rookies, but when you have several rookies, when you have several rookies that are drafted in the first round and none of them are with their teams right now practicing, it seems a little weird, right? Not only will you have players get cut from the draft, you also have players who get drafted very, very high who are not here. Now, for Dominique Malunga, she will be here soon. But for some of the other rookies, we may not see them for another year or two. And it's odd, and it just seems strange that, players get drafted very high, and then they're just like no-shows. And I get it. It makes a lot of sense. It absolutely makes a lot of sense. But it's still a thing. It's still a thing that is not great, because when you look at the international leagues, you got EuroLeague, Euro Cup, you got the Chinese Women's League, you got the WNBL in Australia, and a whole bunch more other leagues. And all of them basically run until March, late March, and early April, which does not give players a lot of time to come back and get ready to go. Now, players make it work. However, these younger players, they don't have to, because there is no thing around prioritization when it comes to drafting players. This is like a thing where teams are just trying to draft and stash in some instances, right? And again, this is not a specific thing with Dominique Malunga, but it just brings up this point, and I just wanted to talk about it because this is a thing. Yeah, Henry is right. Leonie Fibich, she was drafted a long time ago, and it took a while for her to come over to the WNBA. Now, again, understandable. She wanted to prioritize what she was doing over in Europe. She was developing a crazy amount over in Europe, and so when she came to the US, she was ready to go. And we know that, like, international players, it does make sense for them to wait, because we look at a player like a Shyla Hill, who was drafted by the Chicago Sky early a couple years ago, and she ended up not being able to make it in the WNBA. She wound up getting cut her rookie season because she just didn't have like the pro skills just yet. Now, that could have been one of those situations where it may have made sense for her to get drafted, get all excited, and then go back to Australia and continue to work for 1 or 2 years, and then come to the WNBA. Like, so it does make sense for some players to get drafted and go somewhere else. But from a league standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, it's not good, because you have players who are named on draft night. You don't know who they are, and you may never see them again. And so it's just like, it's a limitation on excitement. And maybe there's an opportunity for the WNBA to kind of rethink this, still have international players get drafted, but maybe there's another draft that's specifically for international players that don't play in American colleges. Like, I think that's a possibility that the WNBA may want to consider. Thank you so much, Sharice, for the super chat. Really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate your support. Yeah, I think that's something that the league really does have to think about, you know? W. Bazil says, this exposes the train of thought that the U.S. can just throw together a team to go play internationally. Europe has some talent. Europe does have a lot of talent. Yeah. Europe does have some talent. Tisha says, I don't mind them prioritizing overseas, but there are too many ready and willing in the U.S. that want to be drafted. Yeah, that part. Yeah, I agree. Clark says draft and stash needs to be done away with. They should enter the draft when they want to come over. It takes away spots from people who can play now. Yeah, but here's the deal. Like, draft and stash also makes a ton of sense for teams. You have a talent like a Dominique Malunga, why would you wait? Why would you wait for a couple of years to draft her? No, you want to be the person who locks her up, because once you draft the person, you have their rights. You have the rights to them. And so that's a thing. Jay says NBA players come straight over, though. Yeah, because again, it's a prioritization thing. The NBA, they're paying players so much money that European players are going to be like, okay, let me go over to the US and play immediately in the NBA. Whereas the WNBA, the salaries are not that crazy where it makes sense to sort of like quickly go over there. I mean, for some people it does, and some people it doesn't. Like, I think there's more of a negotiation, more of a thinking, more thinking that players have to do before actually coming over to the US for the WNBA, whereas you're getting paid millions for the NBA, and so it's a lot easier to make that decision. You'd be like, you know what? Yes, I'm going to play for the NBA, like, right away. That makes sense. Whereas in the WNBA, the amounts of money that you're getting is not that much. Well, in comparison to what you're making over in Europe, and even in Australia, so it's like, you kind of have to think about it a little bit more, right? Kind of have to think about it. So that's a thing that I just wanted to mention. So in conclusion, Dominique Malunga has not arrived yet. She will be arriving. We don't know the exact date, but she is in communication with the Seattle Storm. And when she touches down, it's going to be really cool to ultimately see her suit up for the Seattle Storm. She probably will miss Seattle's. She'll probably miss their preseason game that they have coming up. But it's gonna be fun to watch her play for the Storm whenever she actually arrives. But this starts a larger conversation, in my opinion, when it comes to prioritization in draft picks and what that means going forward, and whether or not it's a good or bad look to draft and stash. Though in this particular case, this is not the case of draft and stash. It's just draft and stash is a thing for international players. All right.